Hi guys, hope you're doing fine. Mauro here. This diagram, I like to call it a mind and body diagram. I'm gonna go through it and I want to explain what it's about. As you can see, we have two triangles. We have the mind triangle, which is pretty much pointing downwards, and the body triangle, which is pointing forward. We have the beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels here, and I will explain to you. We're gonna go through that. My idea is that when if you're an athlete or you're a professional on something, it doesn't matter if you're an athlete, if you're just beginning, or you're professional, or you're learning something and you're just beginning, or you're either a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. What I what I have seen with my experience throughout the years teaching is that the body and the mind, they work in a very different way. um, Let me just check really quick something here. In the mind triangle, we have what is part. Let's say that you're an athlete and you have the emotional development, the mind. This is the mind part. So this is the emotional development. We have this things like it's a self-control, your perceptions, your beliefs, mental toughness. That's also things like your desire, tenacity, commitment, willpower, emotional balance. This is a psychological aspect of the game. The body is the body is a physical game or activities. This is any physical or mental activity you need to learn, not related to emotions, beliefs, perception. That, let's say, that's creativity, style, workmanship, imagination, originality. That is just stuff that you develop when you're learning something, but it has nothing to do with your mind. It's more like part of the creativity or your style or something like that, but not really related to beliefs, not really related to perceptions. So as as we become better at anything that we do, let's say, and as an athlete we become better. We start as beginners. That means that we're down here at the bottom of the pyramid and we have to cover all this stuff. This is all the technical aspects that we need to learn. That's all the technical aspects, everything that is, like I say, your workmanship, but that's all the related to more like physical aspect of something that you're learning, or any sport. And as you become better, as you get better and better, as you're a beginner, you have to cover all this. You have to learn, let's say that this is tennis, so you have to learn how to serve, you have to learn how to hit the forehand, you have to learn how to hit the backhand, you have to learn how to volley, you have to learn how to slice, hit overheads, return, all that stuff. As we become better at anything, we start covering and covering and covering more. All right. So that means there is less to cover. We master much better what we're learning. That means that what is left to learn, it's shrinking. Okay, this is the physical aspect, guys. Remember, if you're a professional, let's say that if you're an architect, you're probably learning. You start, okay, I'm gonna build a house first, a one-story house. Then the next step is you move up here, a two-story house. And the next step is gonna be probably, okay, and now I'm gonna make a three-story building, let's say. And then you're moving up, and they say, okay, now I'm gonna learn to, I have to build a 15-story building. It's gonna be a hospital, let's say. And then you get to the top, where they say, okay, you know what? Now I want to learn. I'm learning how to build a stadium or something like that. Something that is much more complicated. So as we get better, we start. There is less to cover, but as we go up, that part that is less to cover is more complicated. Okay, it becomes more challenging. So we go from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So we get to the top here, where let's say we're at the top of the game. We have already learned anything we needed to learn being architects or anything we needed to learn being athletes. Okay, you already know how to move, you already know how to serve, you already know how to hit that forehand, everything else. If it's let's say it's baseball, so you already know how to, you know, you know how to learn. If you're second base, you know, and they say okay, you gotta learn where to stand, you know, when the other guy is batting, you know, you just gotta know your way around, how to throw the ball, how to get out of the way, how to slide. I mean, all those things that you need to learn as a baseball player or as a football player or as a soccer player. So you cover all of them. When we are just beginning, when we're just beginners in that aspect, in the physical aspect or the creative aspect, let's say, not much matters what happens in our heads. It's not very challenging, you know. It's not like we have to be okay. I'm a beginner. I'm a beginner as a baseball player, so I need to learn all this stuff to do. But mentally, I still don't have to be like super super sharp. First, I have to cover the physical aspect of the game here, and as I'm covering the physical aspect of the game and I'm moving up, it starts shrinking what I have to learn, and and on the opposite side, the better you become as an athlete or as a professional at anything, the mind aspect starts becoming more challenging. When you're an architect and you're up here and you're building, let's say, a stadium, you are at the top of the game when it comes down to the creativity of what you do. All right. So you already know how to build houses, how to build buildings, and everything else. But this little part of this stadium, it's this part in the mind, this very, very challenging. So as the body, as the part of the body, the creativity shrinks, the mind aspect, the psychological aspect grows. It gets bigger. You have more to cover. If you are a professional athlete, if you're a beginner, you don't have to rely so much on your mind to win. As you start getting better, you get to the intermediate level, you're gonna have to start working better. You have to start making plans on how to play. You have to start analyzing your opponent. You have to pay attention. Okay, how do I react when I'm low, when I'm behind in the score, or probably I'm ahead in the score? What do I have to do to finish? If you're a tennis player, it's obvious that you have to think. Let's say between points, you say, okay, don't stay focused, stay in the now. Don't let your head, you don't want to overthink things because you start going crazy. So as we start becoming better, guys, in the creative or physical aspect, the mind aspect starts it's becoming more and more difficult. When we get to the very top here, that means you are a world class architect, a world class baseball player, a world class football player, or a world class tennis player. This is all you have to cover mentally. This is what makes the difference. Huge. You have to, from where you started, this is where you have to get if you want to be a world class athlete. There are players, this is so important because a lot of people, I always, and when I train people, I always say, okay, are you doing any kind of visualization, any kind of meditation or something when you go to bed or something? I mean, you're training really well physically, but if you train physically, but if you don't train mentally, you're not ready to win. You're just not gonna. It's not just that. When things get tough, you're just not gonna be ready to respond. So that's one thing that you really have to pay attention, guys. What are you doing mentally training? Because if you want to move up and you're just practicing physically on your game, or if you're starting a lot because you want to be a better mathematician, a better architect, a better painter, you're gonna get jobs. If you're a painter, you're gonna get jobs. You're gonna tell, okay, I want you to paint this thing here, and I want you to paint this wall, and I want you to paint this house, and I want these colors, and I want to mix those colors in that in this wall, and I want these colors on this other wall, and I want the ceiling this like that, so it's more it's more challenging, starts becoming, as you're getting better, it starts becoming mentally more challenging. You're becoming better, so there is not a lot of stuff that you probably will not be able to do, but in order to get to the top, you have to expand your mind here. You have to believe this part here, between the intermediate and the advanced. That's when we start getting really tough. you know the very top is the world class. This is the parts when we start talking. We have to talk about self dialogue, self belief, the way you look at yourself, the way you talk to yourself, per, tenacity, perseverance. We're talking about determination, how you react under pressure, what is your self image, yourself limiting, and all those kind of things. Your desire, your commitment, your willpower. This part here is where the emotional balance makes a difference between the number one player in the world, which physically he's here, and the number 50, or even it could be the number 10, it could be the number 50 or 100. So you can have, if you if you think about it, you can have guys that, let's say Novak Djokovic, he's on top here, Andy Murray, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. But below those guys, probably in the 20s, 30s, probably even in the hundreds, there might be a few guys that they're they're just as good. They move as fast. They hit the ball as hard. I mean, physically, there is no difference between the guys that are in the top 100, probably in the lower 90s or 80s or 50s, and guys that are in the top 5 or 10. This is no difference between those guys. They're all here. And I dare to tell you, I've seen guys. I've been to ATP tournaments, international tournaments, where I have seen guys even in qualifying rounds, that when it comes to physical aspect of the game, they're here. They're not, and they are below the 100 or 150 ranking in the world. But the difference is but in the bodily or physically they're here, but mentally they're here. So this part is not gonna make a difference when you reach the top of your game, whether you're a professional, an athlete, or you work in something else, as an architect or construction worker, whatever you are, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to be in life. This is not gonna be the difference. You can reach the top of your game, but if you mentally stay here, you're never going to develop. You're never gonna reach your full potential. You have to get up here. This is where the top 4, 5, 10 in the world are, in pretty much any sport. And when we see Nadal, for example, and Nadal goes and plays in the French Open, and he plays against the 20 in the world, and he just beats the crap out of that guy, and you say, how is that possible? This guy is just 20 in the world. He's not that. I mean, it's not like Nadal moves better or something. No, no, both are here. The thing is, Nadal is here. He's right next to it, right next to the peak of the pyramid, and the number 20 in the world is down here, or probably here. But this, as it start going up, it becomes harder and harder to keep going up, because you have to develop your mind even more. I mean, this the this the guys that are up here, their self belief is huge. It's just a thing that it's amazing, guys. I mean, being on the top, being on the top is just something that not a lot of players can develop. So that's why it's so important. That's why you want to pay attention to how you're training, what you're doing in this aspect, and this has to go hand in hand with this. Okay, guys. I'm sorry it went a little too long. I just had to emphasize and make it very clear. That's why I always you keep me, you hear me, and I will always say talk about mental aspect of the game because that's what can make a difference between you and the guys that you're not beating, and it can make a huge difference. All right. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Any suggestions, any questions? Let me know. Go out there, stay centered, be bold, and be perseverant. Thank you.